taking action for you. 7 Action News at 7 starts right now.
Back to school.
An uncertain year.
We're very concerned about our health and our kids.
One unlike any other.
My son's going to be in first grade, and I don't even know what I'm going to do with him yet.
Parents facing difficult choices.
Is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be in person? Is it going to be in person and then switch to virtual?
Deep concerns.
We have lost parents. I am holding a keychain of one of our teachers that died from COVID.
And frustrations.
I cannot see how it's going to work for me.
Students facing a different world when they head back to school.
We'll be adding a lot of sanitation stations, a large portion of plastic shields and sneeze guards.
Tonight, we're taking action, getting answers, and bringing you crucial information to help you make fact-based choices to get your family safely back to school.
This is a 7 Action News special, Safely Back to School.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Dave Llewellyn.
And I'm Glenda Lewis. So many factors to consider as we enter these final weeks of summer. Many of us parents still have big questions about the start of the school year.
Yeah, these are important questions to be sure. They surround the health and safety and education of our children.
7 Action News has a team of reporters digging for answers. Everything from precautions in the classroom, learning from home, keeping your kids safe, and dealing with the added stress of the pandemic.
We begin, though, with children heading back to the classroom this fall. Many will see big changes at their schools if they're in session for in-person learning. 7 Action News reporter Jen Shantz takes us inside one high school that's navigating how to reopen safely.
Rochester High School has a student population of around 1,700. It's unclear right now just how many will be back in person come fall, but those who do return won't have access to a locker. They're also not going to be using a traditional drinking fountain, and hallway traffic, that'll be different too.
Classes will be staggered and hallway traffic will flow in just one direction. There's the obvious changes like extra cleaning and sanitizing stations, and the not so obvious ones like deciding who moves from classroom to classroom.
Teachers will be moving, whereas students will be staying put, so we can do that contact tracing if we need to.
Superintendent for Rochester Community Schools, Dr. Robert Shaner, says this process is complicated, and districts are having to come up with a plan in a pretty short period of time while battling problems like teacher shortages, testing, and the uncertainty that comes with a public health crisis of this size. He's asking that parents decide if they want their students to learn in person or online by August 1st. Some things are still in flux, like if sports or band will be able to continue. And what about homecoming? Right now, band practice will have to happen outside. And then there's keeping desks 6 feet apart.
In a high school this size, in a school district this size, particularly at a secondary level, it is logistically impossible. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough classrooms.
It's strongly recommended in Phase 4 of the My Safe Start plan for schools, but it's not required. Students and staff will need to have masks on, and desks will be moved much further apart to social distance as much as possible. Any lunches the school provides will be prepackaged to avoid contact.
The cafeteria situation is going to be far more spread out, and the kids will not be in one place eating lunch. Potentially, they could even be in their classrooms eating lunch. We're not sure on that yet.
As for visitors, they'll be prompted to do a virtual health screening using this QR code posted all around the school. And whether students opt for Rochester's online campus or decide to return in person, Dr. Shaner wants to make everyone feel supported and together, even if it can't be physically.
The social emotional health of our students is probably equal to the physical health of our students at this point.
School here resumes August 31st, and tonight the school board will be meeting virtually to iron out and discuss a lot of these complex issues, something we'll be keeping you posted on. In Rochester, Jen Shantz, 7 Action News.
It is inevitable. At some point in some schools, there will be children diagnosed with COVID-19. So the question many of us parents have is what happens then? In the Novi School District, they're working on several options. In classrooms at Meadows Middle School, one room shows a social distancing layout with desks 6 feet apart, which would be possible with an in-person and virtual schedule. Another room shows what it will look like without a rotating schedule, spread out as much as possible. The desks are about 3 feet apart. Social distancing is not possible. They're preparing to survey parents about which option they prefer.
Nobody's coming out and giving us hard and fast rules to work by. Everything's a recommendation or best practice or we think this will work.
Under Novi's plan, if a student is diagnosed, they and any students that live with them will have to quarantine for 14 days. Families of children from the same classroom will be notified with a letter that, due to privacy rules, will not share the child's identity.
Well, public schools across Michigan are worried they could lose state funding because of decreased enrollment during the pandemic.
And many parents worried about the virus. They're seeking alternatives like homeschooling. 7 Action News reporter Kim Russell with what you need to consider before making that change.
We've heard schools are planning to reopen, but there is still so much uncertainty. And that uncertainty has some parents thinking, should we try homeschooling?
Before COVID-19 closed down schools, Alyssa Tangney from Pinckney says her family was always busy between activities and running her business, the Motherhood Mixer LLC.
I do own my own business, and it's a event planning business, and it's a terrible year for an event planning business.
Despite the challenges, she has valued having more time with her children.
It's been lots of fun with just my family.
Her oldest, 6.5-year-old Addie Tangney, loves school, but is worried about returning.
We really like seeing our grandma and grandpa.
If you went to school, would you be worried about getting grandma and grandpa sick?
Yeah.
And then when the chaos of is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be in person? Is it going to be in person and then switch to virtual? We just kind of said we don't want to deal with that.
So this fall, Alyssa Tangney says she will homeschool her children.
I'm really excited doing it, and I like my family, and I like playing with my brothers and sisters a lot.
We do have quite a few families who this is their very first year with us, and they're looking for some support.
Heidi Pear is the assistant director of the Renaissance Homeschool Group in Farmington Hills. It offers classes and support. She has 2 warnings for parents. If your child is in high school and plans to return, you need to make sure your child follows a curriculum their school will accept credit for. And 2, don't try to replicate a classroom.
In a school situation, they will be at school for 6 to 8 hours, but they're not getting one-on-one instruction.
She says for some children, focused one-on-one instruction for less than 2 hours is enough to stay on track. The idea is to intentionally teach as you live.
Your world is your classroom, right? So they're learning in everything that they're doing.
Alyssa Tangney says she hopes it makes her family stronger.
As much as I have such great memories from school, and I love our public school and the teachers and the job that the administration has done, it was just really nice to get my kids back.
If you're considering homeschooling and would like to find support, we have links at our website, WXYZ.com. Kim Russell, 7 Action News.
Being with your children at home during the pandemic can be stressful.
So what's the best way to handle these situations? Our Keenan Smith shows us a few things to help families. That's next in our Safely Back to School special.
But countdown to school is on, but there are still a lot of unanswered questions.
And while parents are concerned, no matter the age of the child, parents sending their kids to school for the first time face a special strain.
Keenan Smith with more on what you can do.
Well, that's right. And I spoke with the parent of an incoming kindergartner and an expert about how parents can handle stress as the first day of school gets closer, but answers remain elusive.
The first day of school is a magical moment, a developmental milestone. But in 2020, parents sending their little ones to school for the first time face a special dilemma: keep them at home or send them to school during a pandemic.
She's been looking forward to it.
Ann Hahn lives in Gibraltar and is facing that tough choice. She's already had COVID-19 and is concerned about her daughter Emma and other family members catching the virus. Hahn says if she keeps Emma at home this school year, she'll make sure that first day is special.
We'll still do our first day of school pictures, and we'll still make a big deal out of it.
Dr. Rebecca Van Ness is a former school counselor and now an assistant professor at Oakland University. She says parents dealing with stress should first recognize the pressure from within.
We want to be perfect. We want to do everything right. We want to be this great role model for our child. And to give yourself a little bit of a break.
Also, there isn't just one right or wrong answer for sending a child back to school. The right solution will be different for every child. Van Ness says parents can reduce their stress by avoiding polarizing viewpoints.
If we're, scrolling for hours on Facebook, if we're sort of getting into conspiracy theories, I think we can really start spiraling.
Van Ness suggests staying with reputable news sources. and understanding that the choices are more nuanced than just stay at home or go to school. You can actually relieve some of that pressure to make the right choice by choosing both.
Every school in Michigan, to be exact, actually have virtual options. And it's essentially like having the ability to homeschool
with your district's curriculum and support, so you're not alone. Ann Hahn says she still wants to hear more from the Gibraltar School District before she makes her final decision.
I'm sad that she won't have that in-classroom experience if we go the homeschooling route, but at the same time, I want her to be safe.
And that's the goal of both parents and school staff. Dr. Van Ness says it's important to know that a parent's stress can actually be transferred to the children. So it's important for you to manage your stress for the whole family to transition safely back to school. Keenan Smith, 7 Action News.
Keenan, that fine line that we're all sitting on as parents. Thank you so much. Dr. Nandi joins us next with answers to your concerns about heading back to school.
Everything from student infections, school policies, and wearing masks. That's next in our Safely Back to School special. Many of our viewers want to know where health experts stand on the debate over the safety of in-person classes versus remote learning for students.
We can see where Dr. Nandi stands on safety. Little ones are with you, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, of course, my pleasure.
Where do we stand on this?
You know, as far as you're talking about in-person versus remote learning, I think that lots of people want to know about that, but the CDC is strongly in favor of getting students back in the classroom. And if you look at the data, which is what we all want to do, is that one of the most reliable, I feel the most reliable studies from South Africa show that students are most likely to contract COVID-19 from an adult family member, right? And other studies indicate that students actually are not likely to pass the virus to other students as they are to household members. And kids under 10, like these two munchkins, are less likely than adults to infect others. But older kids, right? Kids and teenagers can spread the coronavirus almost as much as adults. Personally, I can support a return to in-person classes, but only if the school and the school families really comply with the guidelines and if the infection rates, right, they remain flat. There are a lot of ifs in there.
Yeah, that's the X factor. We heard from Jane, who contacted us via social media, and she wants to know if schools will ban students from attending classes if they have coughs and colds.
It's an important question, Jane. If your child has symptoms related to COVID-19, like cough and a fever, the school will not allow them to attend class. They shouldn't. You can have your child tested for COVID-19, and depending on the school's policy, if they're negative, they may be able to attend school in a couple of days. But the bottom line is what? If kids are sick, they shouldn't be in school anyway, right? Regardless of whether it's COVID or the flu or the cold. They are all contagious respiratory illnesses. You can't expect schools to diagnose the illnesses, and you shouldn't either. Just please keep them at home until they're feeling well.
Crystal, doctor, feels it's unrealistic to think children will keep a mask on all day like yours are right there. She thinks teachers will spend more time remasking the kids than actually teaching them, and that's a concern.
And here's what I'm doing. My point is that you can practice, right? It's not perfect. They were touching their mask right before we got on the air. Let's be honest. But it's our responsibility as parents to teach kids how to mask up, right? Let them practice a few weeks before school starts by wearing masks at home for extended periods of time. That's what I've been doing with my kids. Make it fun. Is this fun, Sean? Yes, it is, right? That's fun. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. And make sure the kids understand the importance of keeping the mask on around their friends to keep each other safe. Listen, you got to do whatever you need to teach them. And remember, you are your child's main role model. If you are wearing a mask and they see you, they'll be comfortable wearing one too. And we can get this done safely and keep infections down. Right, guys?
Yeah.
All right.
I see smiles under that mask.
That's right. You got your support team with you. As always, Dr. Nandi, we thank you for joining us tonight and wish you and those kids the best of health going forward.
That's right. All right, Dave. So coming up next, a whole new way to go school shopping this year. Amira David with what you need to know when we come back. The pandemic has changed the way parents are doing their school supply shopping this year.
Tonight, 7 Action News reporter Amira David is taking a closer look at the anxiety parents are experiencing when it comes to minimizing their child's exposure to germs.
We spoke to one Metro Detroit mom who is frankly confused about what to buy for her daughter, as she still doesn't know whether she'll study from school or from home. But one thing is for sure, parents out there with kids that are heading back to school need to shop with safety top of mind.
My anxiety is probably to a 10, not knowing what's going to happen.
For Lisa Ortner, returning to work was hard. But the thought of her daughter returning to school has been even more nerve-wracking.
My thoughts are very scary.
The Southgate mom has concerns about safety, about her squeezed budget.
The money factor of being a single parent with my kid going back to school, with the extra cost of masks, sanitation.
And about the tools her rising second grader will need in an uncertain school year.
Do I pick paper or do I pick mask and sanitation supplies?
Lisa's anxiety shared by many parents across Metro Detroit, now forced to shop in a back-to-school season like no other.
Number one, obviously, is the mask.
If your child is physically heading back to school, educator Carrie Esterbrook says you need to stock up to mask up. Each child should have 3 to 5 reusable masks that can be switched out and washed. While wipes are quick and easy, soap and paper towel is a good alternative and in stock at most stores. Meantime, consider buying hand sanitizer in bulk, then refilling individual bottles.
Everybody knows there's a lot of shared supplies within the classrooms that kids use on a day-to-day basis. So how do you handle that?
Everybody has an individual either basket or pencil box or bin or box that is labeled with your child's name.
When it comes to eating at school,
a lunchbox that's easy for them to wipe clean.
So here's the rebound rundown. Stock up on 3 to 5 reusable masks per child. Buy an individual pencil box for kids where they can store their supplies and label it with their name. And pack lunches that your child is capable of opening independently. I'm Amira David, 7 Action News.
Thank you, Amira. And you can see all of our safely back to school stories right now on the homepage of our website, WXYZ.com.
Be sure to join us for Action News at 10 on TV 20. Then we're back here for you tonight at 11. Stay safe. Good night.